I'd like to present a little paper here about arming our educators. I titled it, "What Do We Do? Arm Our Educators?" With the growing rate of gun violence in our schools, many solutions have been suggested. This is a problem that cannot be easily resolved. One of the so-called solutions suggested by our own president is for the training and arming of teachers. Is this something we really want to do? Do we want our children's educators burdened with the task of possibly having to kill a potential threat? Having to shoot one of their own students? Many say, with the utmost confidence, the answer to this question is no. Armed teachers? These words do not belong together. This doesn't even sound right. No doubt that this is a bad idea. President Donald Trump, in response to the gun violence epidemic, suggested training and arming teachers, allowing them to conceal and carry loaded handguns in our schools. He suggests allowing trained individuals, between 10 and 40% of the teachers, and doing so with government funds. He goes on saying these 10 to 40% would receive a little bit of a bonus, stating federal funds would be set aside for this. Critics say the cost would be astronomical and that these funds could be used in more productive ways, possibly providing the necessary school supplies, children to actually get the level of education they deserved. Some people say gun-free zones such as schools are a prime target for these deranged offenders. Many assumptions being no guns, no opposition, making it a soft target. Although many agree with this, does adding a bunch of guns to the equation actually help or hinder our children and their safety? Many believe this would increase the danger. Too many things could go wrong. Where would guns be kept? What if a student goes and gets a hold of a gun? This could potentially lead to further increase in school shootings, defeating the original intention. Children are curious. They are clever. If they know guns are around, that could be enticing and could cause them to look for them, leading to the most undesirable outcomes. Let's say the teachers keep the guns concealed on their person. It still offers an opportunity for children to have access to a gun, or possibly leading to a teacher making a so-called bad decision. For instance, ABC News reported on February 28th, 2018, this year, an armed teacher in Georgia seems to have lost his mind and barricaded himself in a maintenance closet. He also fired his weapon in the school. He is now in custody. Another example, also reported by ABC News. Last month in California, an armed teacher who was also a police reserve officer, intensely trained in handling firearms, was demonstrating a gun safety class for his students when he accidentally discharged his weapon into the ceiling of his classroom, causing ricochet and injuring 3 children. This is unacceptable. These incidents are not reported to us in the same fashion as mass shootings. They don't fit the agenda. Many folks think arming teachers is a great idea. The Republican Party is the driving force behind this. According to a CBS News poll, 68% of the Republican Party support President Trump's proposal of training and arming our educators. This proposal, which ultimately could be the reason the majority of the party is in favor of it, despite the absurdity. Some say they could not be more wrong. For example, the Washington Post reports Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, made an extensive and persuasive argument that teachers are not and should not be trained as sharpshooters. Teachers are a special kind of person. They found a passion in education and helping children achieve their dreams, contributing to a better future for all. Most teachers are opposed to Trump's rhetoric, expressing that they would not want to participate in the training or the act of carrying a firearm. Professor of English Brandon Chitwood of the world-renowned College of St. Paul states, It seems to be a bad idea to me, and I do not support it. He goes on to say, it would further complicate an already volatile situation, suggesting that arming educators would not be a viable solution. Supporting Professor Chitwood's viewpoint, not to arm teachers, an article in the New York Times reports 73% of educators are opposed to President's proposed resolution arming teachers, while 20% of teachers support it. According to the nationwide survey of almost 500 teachers in kindergarten through 12th grade conducted by the Gallup and released in March 28, 2018. No matter what measures are taken, there will be opposition. Understandable. But saying that gun-free zones will reduce crime is preposterous. Most of the targets chosen by these disturbed individuals are just that, gun-free zones. What if the teachers were armed? Would these shooters choose different targets? Better yet, not become shooters in the first place? These questions are difficult and may never be answered. We know there is a problem. We know we need to do something about it. But what? How often do we hear about mass shootings in courtrooms? How often do we hear about mass shootings on airplanes? Not too often. Hardly ever, right? The judges do not have guns. The pilots do not have guns. Why would we arm the teachers? Most Americans agree. Arming teachers is not the answer. So, is the answer airport level security? Police at all entrances and exits? Even with some of these extremes in place, 2 of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history were still carried out. Columbine and Virginia Tech. The day of the Virginia Tech shooting, 5 police officers and the chief of police were on the premises. In both cases, the assailants were aware of an armed presence on campus, but followed through with their heinous acts regardless. The fake news needs to cease. The brainwashing of the masses with the suggestion that these crimes can only be deterred with intense security measures. Their false reports and diversion tactics take the focus away from the real problems, social problems, mental problems. These things and many more need to be addressed before any progress will ever be made. This is not a gun problem, folks. It's a societal issue that is not being confronted in the proper fashion. Prevention doesn't begin with a shooter knocking on the door. We don't stop a fire in the forest by waiting for it to rage out of control and then attempt to snuff out the flames. These troubled youth need to be identified and counseled. These children are crying out for help long before they make the fateful decision to shoot. And to shoot up their schools. In most cases, they are simply ignored and bullied, leaving them feeling even more isolated. This will be a subject of debate for many, many years to come. Will the problem of gun violence ever be resolved? Nobody knows. But the majority of the population knows that arming our nation's teachers is not the answer. Sorry, Donald Dump.